Hey guys, it's Rosa, and if you watched one of my previous videos, then you know I made a video about how I'm really scared of not ever being successful. And after I made that video, it really got me thinking about, okay, but what does success mean to me as an individual though? Or what does success mean to you? Just off the top of your head. I think we can all agree that we think, okay, a successful person is somebody who is probably wealthy, has a great career, probably in a higher position in their job, and has some kind of authority, or at least are performing really well. And maybe they are charismatic and great at communication. All those things are things that we might think about when we think about like a successful person. And you know what? Oftentimes, success looks differently from culture to culture. If you're like me and you grew up in the United States, our culture loves somebody who is charismatic, loud, assertive. But then it's funny because in Asia, it's kind of switched over. I mean, of course, Asia, they value somebody who has a lot of money too, right? But on the topic of being outgoing, if you're like that in like China or India, for example, I mean, people would just think you're really obtrusive and rude. The more quiet you are actually, and the less you say in these cultures, the smarter that people perceive you, the more respect they actually have for you, and the more they perceive you as a successful person. Whether you're Asian American, or if you moved here from Asia, or if you're in Asia, success is largely associated with filial piety, which means your respect for your parents and elders in the society. Even if they're wrong or being really rude to you, one of like the markers of the way they view you, are you a good person, are you a successful person in your life, is how obedient you are to your elders. And for example, in Japan, being successful there has a lot to do with working very hard and then also loyalty. In America, that's something that we value as well. I know so many of my friends are in finance and they basically don't have a life. So think of Japan like that, but like next level extreme of that. Like I've heard that somebody who has a coworker who had to leave the office every day at 6:30 to pick up their son from school. He's like one of the top performers in the company, but like people don't have respect for him. They talk about him all the time behind his back, saying that he has terrible work ethic. It's crazy because he performs really well and people don't even care. They care about you just spending all your time at the office and giving your entire life to the company. To them, that's like worthy of respect and that's perceived as success. And oftentimes in Japan, they would prefer if you just fall asleep at work there because it just shows how much you've worked. You're just so tired that you fall asleep at your desk, or you doze off in the subway station, or like right outside on the bench of your company. People are just like, oh my god, that's amazing. It just shows how loyal they are to their company and how hard they've worked. Even my own mom has told me that she's known people who have relatives who are Japanese, and for example, if the husband is working, he finishes work early, he would be ashamed of going home because their family would also view them as being lazy and be like, why'd you come back early? Like, you should be there late. But at the end of the day, culture and society's expectation aside, what does success or being successful look like for you? Not what your culture or what the people around you expect of you, but what does it look like for you, right? That's what I keep saying, for you. What does your personal successful life look like? Because ultimately, success is a very subjective word. One person might value family time and relationships over having an extremely successful career or being very high up in their job, or valuing their community. And as long as they have that, then to them they're like, okay, that's my success and that is the success that I want. But of course, there's probably going to be somebody who's very career oriented, right? Then yeah, getting the next pay raise or having a higher position, that's things that matter to them more. Perhaps they don't care that much about having deep relationships or having a family, that's not their focus. Then they might look at somebody who values family time and relationships and community more as like not successful. But I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? Because as long as the person who has figured out what they want in their lives that's going to make them feel like this is my definition of success, then they're going to be very happy and very satisfied. I also just want to mention that I don't think either one of these people with the two different views is right or wrong. I wouldn't say, oh, the person who values family and relationships, that's the right person. The person that values career the most, that's the right way. No, I mean, like I said, it depends on what you believe in, and you shouldn't put that standard on other people because everybody has different pursuits and preferences in life. The most important thing when it comes to thinking about success is just as long as you're happy with the decision you make, and even if you make the wrong decisions, that's okay, that's part of life. As long as you're navigating, you figure out what that looks like for you, then I think that's the right way to do it. Like I said earlier, I'm not pitting one against another. There's also plenty of people out there who want a family life and a great career. That's totally doable. There's a bunch of people out there with the most supportive and intimate family relationships and friendships, and they still do well in their career. And in fact, I think a lot of people like that. A lot of people want that. It all comes down to what extent you want each thing in your life. For example, one person's like, okay, I want 30% career and 70% family, or vice versa. You have to find your happy percentage for each aspect of your life. Like, what do you want in your salad bowl? You want more kale, more spinach, or less tomatoes? Whatever that percentage you decide, that's what's gonna work for you. So even though I made that video earlier and talked about how scared I was to not be successful in our society, probably part of that fear comes from just growing up in the community and the culture that I did. Like, everyone is so, just like, I almost feel like everybody around me just feels so good at what they do. And anyway, I'll make another video on that because I think we tend to compare ourselves with people's highlight reel. We compare the worst version of ourselves to like the best version of other people. Anyway, basically being successful can mean so many different things. There's not one way to get there. There's not one way that is a correct way of success, and there's not one definition of what success means. And before I end this video, I just want to say that success can look differently from one stage of your life to the next as well. Like, maybe when you're in elementary school, being successful is being able to have enough playtime. Maybe you get to high school and a lot of kids are so concerned. I think it's funny. There's so many high school kids that are so concerned about dating. And they're like, oh, I got a girlfriend this year. That's my definition of success or whatever. Okay, you know? And then you go to college. You're like, okay, I want to pick a major. I want to do well. And so you do that and you do well. And then every stage there's this level that you reach, and perhaps it changes. And perhaps your entire view of what you viewed as successful changes later on. Maybe you were a career chaser for most of your life, maybe until you're, I don't know, in your 40s, and finally you're like, no, like, actually, I want family. That's important to me. Then your definition of success changes at that point. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.